Morning, friends. So for the next few weeks at church, we're going to be talking about the problem with reality. This is going to be a series about the gap that exists between what we expect and what we experience. I thought this was funny. But you know what I mean when I talk about the gap between what you expect and what you experience? Here's life for most of us. We expect this, but we experience this. Our expectations way up here. Our experiences way down here. And the gap between what we expect and what we experience has a name. Frustration. And what I'm going to do this morning is ease gently, slightly gently, maybe a little roughly, to be honest, into this subject. And I'm going to talk in particular about the expectations that you have of other people and the frustrations that you feel when other people don't match the expectations that you have of them. So if you've ever been let down, if there's tension in your life because other people aren't doing what you want them to do, or aren't behaving how you'd like them to behave, this is for you. Now, just by way of housekeeping, if you happen to be sitting next to that person this morning, just keep your eyes focused here, otherwise church might get weird, and we don't want that. All right, anyway, so there's this really well-known episode in the Gospel according to St. Luke, where Jesus and his disciples are on his way to Jerusalem. And the gospel writer tells us that they come to a village and a woman called Martha opens her home up to Jesus and his friends. So very simply what's going on, Jesus and his disciples are heading from up north to Jerusalem. They come to this place and Martha offers them hospitality. No big deal, very nice, very ordinary. Now, many of you probably have in your home, probably in your kitchen, a little hanging pendant or a wall decal or a fridge magnet perhaps that expresses some kind of hokey, cheesy, sentimental piece of wisdom. Such as this. Let's look at a few examples. So that's rather nice. The best things in life aren't things. Yeah? Cool. I thought this one was quite good. Wine not. There you go. There's a life verse for you. Perhaps in your bathroom you have one like this. Please remain seated for the entire performance. You know who you are, gentlemen. Then, you bought these things at Pier 1 probably, and they probably seemed like a good idea at the time. Now, first century Jewish homes, such as the one that Martha and her sister have just opened up to Jesus and his friends, had a wall decal. They had a saying. And it went like this: let your house be a meeting place for the sages. Sit amidst the dust of their feet and drink their words with thirst. So a sage in first century Jewish thought is a wise man. And so this hokey piece of wisdom is saying, avail yourself of every opportunity you can to listen to these wise people, soak up all the information, because you never know when they might say something important, and drink in their words with thirst, so the saying goes. Now, you'll agree with me when I say that there is a difference between how you drink when you're thirsty and how you drink when you're not. When you're not all that thirsty and you have a drink, you kind of have a sip and you get back to what you're doing, you have a sip, you get back to your texting, you have a sip, you change the channel, it's not that big of a deal. But when you just finish, a 6-mile run or something, you're parched, you drink in an entirely different way. When you put that liquid to lips, all you can think about, all you're focused on, is the feeling of that cold liquid running down your throat and how satisfying it feels. And this is how this saying advises first century Jews to listen to wise men. Drink in their words with thirst. Soak up the information as though it actually mattered. And so perhaps, excited about hearing what Jesus has to say, and perhaps mindful about this well-known Jewish saying, this woman Martha and her sister have Jesus into their home so they can, like the saying goes, sit amidst the dust of his feet and drink his words with thirst. This point is explicitly made in the next sentence. The writer tells us that she had a sister, Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. So Jesus is talking about what it's like to live in this world of ours as a person of faith, and she's listening. She's soaking it up. And I should, as an aside, point out that for Mary to be listening to what Jesus is saying does presuppose that Jesus is saying something. And I want to point that out because we as Christians are not deists. That is, we do not believe that God is detached from his creation or from our lives within it. Quite the contrary. We believe that God is somehow involved in this world and particularly interested in our lives within it. And we further believe, even though that belief is tenuously held, sometimes held in spite of what seems to be the evidence, that God cares, and that because he cares, he speaks. And because he speaks, today is always a good day to be listening to what he might be up to and what he might be saying to us, because you never know when he might say something that turns everything around, or do something that turns everything around. That is one of our fundamental beliefs, often tenuously held. Next sentence. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Now, the oldest profession in the world, contrary to popular opinion, is housework. For as long as people have lived in houses, there's been housework to do. And Martha in this story has the same gift in life that many of you have. The gift of GSD. Getting stuff done. That's your life, isn't it? Getting stuff done. Got out of bed today, and what do I have to do? I just got to get stuff done. And that's what Martha is busy with. She's got guests in her home. She wants those guests to be comfortable. She wants those guests to have a nice meal. So she's working hard. What she's working hard on, we can all imagine. She's in the kitchen. She's getting some kind of meal together. She's bringing out her A game for Jesus and his friends. And all of this is a good thing. It's a good thing she's doing. It's good to put a nice meal on the table. It's good to have a nice, clean house. This sentence is entirely good. At least it would be if it wasn't for her stinking attitude. You see, the problem with getting stuff done is that you can become very bitter about other people who are not good at getting stuff done. Yeah? Touched a raw nerve there. You're glad you brought your partner to church. You're sorry you didn't. The problem with having your life together, I mean, it's good to have your life together. But the dark side is you can get really upset and angry about people who don't have their life together. And so she says to Jesus, while she's doing a good thing, she says to Jesus, Lord, don't you care that my sister's left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. So Martha, getting into our subject matter now, has this very clear expectation about how today's going to go. She expects, rightly, that Jesus is going to have some good food to eat. She expects rightly that her guests are not going to have to sit in a messy house. And she expects, also rightly I think, that her sister will help towards those ends. And I'll say bad things about her in a minute, but I like that this woman is very clear in articulating the things she expects of this day. And I like that because what we too often do is we lower our expectations to match our experiences, which then causes our life to be determined by our experiences and not our expectations. So for example, if you're in a relationship and you're not getting the respect you think you deserve, or you're not getting the love that you feel you want, and after a sustained period of not getting the respect you feel you deserve or the love you think you want, you begin to stop expecting them. And then you lower your expectations to such a point where you expect not to get the respect you deserve, and you expect not to get the love you want. And that's just a great idea, isn't it? Isn't that a great idea, to go through life expecting not to get the things you want? Expecting not to get the things you deserve. Martha is not like this. She loves herself more than that, and rightly so. She expects that her sister will get off her backside and help. And she is very clear and very quick in expressing those expectations. And that's just good sense. Because it is profoundly unfair for you to expect people to give you what you haven't asked for. And that's just genius, right? I mean, so obvious. You can't expect people to give you what you haven't expressed. Of all the amazing things that we human beings are capable of, mind reading, I don't think, is one of them. Your husband can't read your mind. No, do you understand that? He can't read your mind. Your wife can't use her gift of extrasensory perception to figure out the things you'd like her to do for you. And one of the huge improvements that we can make in all of our relationships is to just begin expressing what we expect. One of the core values that we have as a church is we want people to be all that they can be. And this small, simple thing makes such a big difference. Have clear conversations about what you'd like, about what you want, about what you're looking for, about what you need. And perhaps this is just one of those big frustrations in your life because you're not good at this. You're not good at telling people what you want. So practice. Some of the best conversations you can have in your relationships, be they personal or professional, is here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I'd like. I'll let you save that for the car on the way home. But in the meantime, let's hear it for Martha. Let's speak well of her at this point in the service. She has an expectation. She articulates her expectation clearly. There is no mystery about what she wants. Fair enough. No one's going to give you what you want if you don't ask. But you'll notice, getting to the dark side, that she expresses what she wants of her sister, not to her sister, but to Jesus. She seems to be saying here, Jesus, Martha's in the room. Mary's in the room. Jesus, I expect that my sister will help me in the kitchen. Tell her to come and help me in the kitchen. I want you to get her to behave in the way I want her to behave. And I draw your attention to that because I want to be very careful to say that that is wrong. There is a boundary between where your life ends and another person's life begins. You are not them, and they are not you. And I think that sometimes our expectations of others are a little bit twisted, because what we really want is for them to be us, and to see the world through our eyes, and to behave entirely through our expectations. We want them to play the game of their life by our rules, and that is a fundamental violation of another's humanity. It's not for us to figure out other people's lives for them. We have to realise, and I guess this is a hard word for a parent to speak particularly, we have to realise that other people are not us. We are not other people, and we are not them, and they are not us. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to stand before God for me, you're going to have to stand before God for you, and they're going to have to stand before God for them. And to co-opt God and family members and friends in an attempt to get another person to behave in the way we want them to behave, there's a name for that. Manipulation. Get them to do what we want them to do. So Martha's in the kitchen, yeah? And she's in a bad mood. You ever notice, by the way, how easily that happens? No, really. It's Christmas time, right? And the family are coming over for dinner, and you want it to be so much fun that it makes you miserable. You want to provide the best for your family, but wanting to provide the best for your family brings out the worst in you. Way back when, you wanted to work so hard and provide so many things and give the very best things for your partner and for your children and all that stuff, and it was an entirely 100% good, pure motive, and you wanted those good things so badly, it turns you into a bad, cranky, bad person. I used the word bad twice in that sentence, but I meant to. So Martha is going crazy in the kitchen. Right? It's a whirlwind of negativity, and she wants her sister to join her. Like what the sentence is really saying is, can't she see I'm miserable in here? Tell her to come and join me. Oh yeah, definitely want to go to that party. Now where do I sign up? Have you ever met people, don't look at them. I'm going to look right here. Have you, it's so good, it's dark in church. Have you ever met people, seriously now, have you ever met people who want to draft you into their dysfunction? Mm-hmm. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Martha's the one with the problem. But her perception is that her sister Mary is the one who needs to be fixed. And you can be so dysfunctional that you can think there's something wrong with everyone else. You can want your crazy to become everyone else's normal. And you want to impose your crazy and your dysfunction onto all of them, and make all of them walk on eggshells around you, and be super sensitive around you, and be careful with not with upsetting you, and all that stuff. And you want to just spread your mentalness to them. And they're the people with the issue. They're the people who need to be fixed. No, it's you. When I was a kid, I had friends, and those were the days. And yeah, so there was a whole bunch of us guys who hung out together. This was when we were young kids. And there was this, I had this friend whose mother, she used to hang tea bags out on the washing line to dry and be reused. Now, I'm sorry, that's not thrifty, that's crazy. Right? There's thrifty. Ooh, crossed the line, crazy. So, and it was a very tight tightly packed housing subdivision I lived in, so you can hear everyone's arguments, right? It's amazing. And so we used to hear this woman shouting at her husband all the time, I told you to put the tea bags, why did you put the tea bags in the garbage? Now they can't be reused, we've got to hang them. How many times do I have to tell you, tea bags go on the washing line? And all this. So I was talking to my friend about it one day, and I'm like, dude, no offence, but your mum is mental. She's not normal. And he was like, man, I know, she goes on about it all the time. And we all have to be so careful with these tea bags. This is quintessential dysfunction. My crazy behaviour is normal, and what you all need to do is be like me. Live how I live, behave how I want you to behave, and then we'll all get along. Then the house will be happy. Question for you to think about, to make you think about it. Are you living in stress? Are you working in stress? Are you existing in stress? Because you're allowing yourself to be sucked into the dysfunctional craziness of other people. This is Martha. Get into the kitchen and be miserable like me. Because this is how we have fun in this house. By being unhappy. Next sentence. Jesus. Shaking his head, I'm sure. Martha, Martha. So crazy I named it twice. You are worried and upset about many things. Stop. Of all the sentences in the New Testament that give commentary on the life we live, that one nails it for me. Worried and upset about how many things? Yeah. Isn't that life? If you're lucky, you arrive at adulthood without too many worries. That's if you're lucky. And then it happens one day. You didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't notice it happening. It happened quietly, just crept up on you. But one day you wake up and you realise, there's a lot of stuff on my mind. There's a lot of things going on. My 24 hours are full and busy, and I've got a lot of things to worry about. Like a mouse in a wheel. I've got family, I've got responsibilities, I've got bills, I've got pressures, I've got expectations, and it's not just one thing, it's many things. And those things that worry us and upset us and give us sleepless nights, I don't think any of them are bad. I don't. Jesus is not saying to Martha, Martha, it is so wrong for you to be busy. It is so wrong for you to want to provide. It is so wrong for you to want to have a clean house and a nice meal or whatever it is you're worried about. He's not saying any of the things that are keeping her up at night are wrong. All he's saying is, hey, your priorities are upside down. You need to get them straight. So notice that although she's worried and upset about many things, Jesus says to her, only one thing is needed. And that one thing is what Mary has chosen to do, spending time listening to what Jesus is saying, drinking in his words. Just because Jesus cares, and we presume he does as Christians care, about how busy and pressured we are, does not mean that he is willing to concede that our busyness and pressures should become the sum total of our lives. There must be more to life than what we fill it with. And there may well be nothing wrong with all of the many things that clamour for space on our list of priorities. Nothing at all. Indeed, they may very well be perfectly good and noble pursuits. Nothing wrong with working hard. It's the right thing to do. Nothing wrong with providing for our loved ones. But if we were to ask Jesus, as this scripture seems to, what he thinks of our weekly priorities, he would say to us that the choice we have to make between an ordinary life and our best one is a choice between doing lots of good things and doing one best thing. In this particular scripture, what he wishes for us to be doing is knowing and enjoying his presence in our lives. Perhaps as Luke penned these words, he was thinking about that part of the Old Testament that said man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So Martha's preparing a good meal, the point is, but Mary is enjoying the best one, Jesus. Now this makes me think that perhaps one of the sources of frustration in our lives from a Christian point of view is that we get confused and upside down about the expectations that God has of us. Here's where Martha's head is at. Jesus is here. Got to clean up. Jesus is coming. Got to cook something. Jesus is here. Got to get my house in order. Because I'm very clear about what Jesus wants of me and expects of me, I've got to behave in a certain way. Question, out of the text and into our lives. What do you think, my Christian friend, God expects of you? I mean, if it's true, if all the things we believe are true, if there is a God, and if that God is active in our lives and actually cares how we live, that's a real question. What does that God expect of us? I like what Bono says. I don't like Bono particularly. I think he's a bit preachy, but I like what Bono says about this. He says that Christianity isn't karma. The big idea of, I think, all religions is karma. You get what you deserve, you know. What you put out comes back to you. An eye for an eye. You reap what you sow. It's in all religions, even a little bit in our own. The cold logic of karma is irrefutable. And then Jesus in the New Testament comes along with this anti-karma idea called grace. And grace defies the logic of karma and the reason of karma. The love of God in the New Testament seems to interrupt the consequences of our behavior. What those behaviors are is something between you and God, but if karma is your judge, believe me, you're in trouble. If karma is true, you've got it coming, in this life or the next. But if grace is your judge, then it's not about you getting what you deserve or reaping what you sow. It's about Jesus taking your sins to the cross and paying for your mistakes. So maybe, here's an idea, it's a dangerous one. Even Christians struggle with this. Maybe what God expects of you this week is for you to accept the fact that you are already accepted. That you will accept the fact that the love God has already shown you on the cross has already interrupted the consequences of your behavior. That same God wants to bless you and not berate you. And I think that matters. Because once you accept that you are accepted the way that you are, you've then got a chance of accepting other people the way that they are. And release yourself from the constant and unsatisfying and unpleasurable pressure of always trying to make everyone else behave your way and live your way. I'm no shrink. I mean, I need one, but I'm not one. But I think, and I'm hardly wrong, I think that the people who screw others up are the ones who are themselves the most screwed up. Has that not been your experience? Is that not a fair statement? I think that the bitter, angry, twisted people are the people who find it hardest to accept that they are accepted by a God who loves them. So what does God expect of you? Perfection, morality, a better religious observance, praying longer, harder, that you pull your socks up and try to be a better Christian. I mean, it wouldn't do any harm, but is that what God expects of you? Does living under that pressure make you a better human being? I think not. Maybe if the New Testament is true, God expects nothing but offers everything. Maybe rather than saying, today I must be perfect and more moral and more religious, today I must try harder, I must try harder, I must try harder, maybe it would be better to begin the day by saying, I am accepted and loved by a God who has forgiven me, past, present, and future. Today the judge of my soul has said I am and always will be right with him. Maybe it would be better to live from a position of who God has said you already are and not who you are trying to become. So, there's a gap, a big gap in most of our cases, between what you wanted in life and what you ended up with. Yeah?
Yeah.
So what? Really, so what? There's life in that gap. And there's joy. And there's peace. And the surprising presence of a God who is in all times and all places with all of himself. More on this next Sunday. God bless you. Thank you for coming.